So here in the Collector's Corner, we like to talk about things that people love to collect. Primarily, I tend to talk mostly about comic books, but we also talk about things such as trading cards. We talk about things such as action figures, any of those fun things that people love to collect. That's what we like to talk about here in the Collector's Corner. All right, so for tonight's show, these are going to be the comic book selections for this evening. As we move forward with the Collector's Corner in the new time slot, which is going to be on Thursday, we're going to start focusing maybe a little bit more on trading cards than we have been lately. But we're still going to do a little bit of comic book stuff too. This is kind of like what we did a couple weeks ago when I picked that Avengers storyline. Instead of necessarily highlighting a single book, I wanted to highlight a storyline. This is one of my favorite stories, actually, from Justice League. This is a really cool story called Destiny's Hand. And it's interesting because it's all about a parallel kind of Earth. It kind of starts off and you're following the Justice League, and it's like, well, this is kind of weird. This doesn't seem to sync up. And as you go further into it, you realize it's a weird, twisted, alternate reality of Earth, and this is a completely different Justice League than we're familiar with. And part of the mystery is who is actually behind, this, twisted reality that we're experiencing. This is just a really great Justice League story. You can pick these books up super mega affordable. You can get these things for a song. You'll probably find them in 50-cent bins. But if you like the Justice League, if you like a lot of these characters like Martian Manhunter, if you like characters like Hawkman and the Flash and Green Lantern, this is a really, really fun, great storyline for the Justice League. So that's what we're highlighting tonight in the Collector's Corner on the comic book side. I just wanted, I talked about that really fun Avengers story. So I wanted to balance that out with just a really fun Justice League story. So that's what I picked for tonight's installment of the Collector's Corner.
That's very cool. And you say that these are pretty easy to find?
Yeah, they're pretty easy to find. There's, like I said, they're super, super affordable. You can get them different places on the internet. You can pick up copies over at My Comic Shop. That's a pretty good place where I've bought a lot of comics over the years. And they're really affordable on that site. They're not super expensive. But this is just a really great, fun storyline. And the thing that's neat about this story, too, is that you see a lot of these really fun characters. And there's even some characters in this story that you don't even see here that's featured. But Sinestro is in this. Condor is in this. The Ray is in this. Wonder Woman is in this. Maxima's in this. And a really brutal version of Hawkman, which is really kind of fun. You've got Red Tornado. Like, it's just all these really cool Justice League characters in this weird kind of twisted reality. And it's just a really, really fun read.
Very cool.
Great artwork, too, by Dan Jurgens and Rick Burchett. Highly, highly recommend this particular story. So additionally on the collector side too, I'll go ahead and throw this out there. I did pick up a copy of Joker #2, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't even had a chance to even flip through it yet. I know that that's supposed to be the debut of Bane's daughter, and had a lot of people excited, but I still haven't had a chance to really get into it. It finally showed up here at the house, but like I said, I hadn't had a chance to even really flip through it. It's got a nice cover. I didn't get the cover that everybody's all excited about that looks like someone putting on Bane's mask. I didn't get that one. I got just the standard cover because I'm a big standard cover guy. Well, I know doesn't sound very fun or sexy to say that, but I like for the cover to match the artwork. Like I like for the cover to be done by the person who's actually drawing the story on the inside, so it's kind of more consistent, that what you see on the outside is what you get on the inside kind of deal. So
I think that makes a lot of sense. It really does. But I'm not that way. I'm completely the opposite. Like, I like photo covers and things like that. So I totally am into the alternate covers. I do think that they overdo it, though. I really feel that, because when I was looking for certain books back in the day, not too long ago, just like a couple years ago, when I was regularly going into a comic book shop, there was a comic book shop that was right down the street from my kid's school. And so like basically, every week when I would pick them up from school, I would actually pass by this shop and I would go in there and I would look for things for them that like maybe get them interested in some stuff. And there was stuff that I started to get interested in as I spent a lot of time regularly at this comic book shop. And I remember I would get overwhelmed sometimes with the alternate covers and also the prices. Sometimes the alternate covers really involve a premium price that's kind of ridiculous. And it does get kind of hairy. Like if you're really into a particular cover, as far as these variants, a lot of times you can't find them, because they basically force scarcity, which is also an interesting thing to talk about on the Collector's Corner. Is there's that sort of forced collectability that has nothing to do with necessarily what the audience wants. It's just that they printed it in such low numbers. Of course, it's in demand, right? Because there's just so few of them. So it does get to be sort of a gimmick, and it does get to be sort of like a, sort of a ripoff sometimes. But that being said, we did alternate covers when we did Occupants, so it is what it is, right?
Well, and I, at DC, and even at companies like Boom and stuff like that, like I've done artwork for alternate covers, you know what I mean, and worked on alternate covers for all kinds of stuff. And the weird thing is like when I, typically not so much with like Boom per se, but with DC, for example, what they would do is they send you complimentary copies of whatever you worked on, right? So you have a file copy and a couple extra to do with whatever you want. And I remember whenever I would work on I would do an alternate cover, they would send me like anywhere from 5 to 10 copies. And I would take those to conventions. And used to always freak people out because I would just sell them for cover price. And sometimes I'd just give them to people. And they always used to freak people out. They're like, man, this thing's worth and I was like, it's not worth nothing other than if it makes you happy, you can take it. Like I never really, it's just one of those things. As long as I have a copy for me, that's all I was really worried about.
Right.
But it's funny because in hindsight, I see a lot of people now, they'll send them off to have them CGC'd and they sign them and they put them on the website and they sell them for a premium and all this other stuff. And in hindsight, if I'd been a little bit more mercenary about what I was doing, maybe I'd have more of that stuff. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
to me, I just always was just so happy to be working on these characters and kind of a part of the history of them. You know what I mean? I was just, and when I did a convention, I always saw myself as being there for the fans. That's what I was there for, right? So, I remember one guy was so super excited to get, what was it? I think it was the alternate cover to Batman Incorporated, because mine and Scott's cover was the super rare one. The standard edition one, even though we did the artwork on the story on the inside, we didn't actually do the cover, you know what I mean, for the standard edition. That was actually done by, I can't remember his name. He's a pretty good artist, but I can't remember his name. But anyhow, the alternate, the limited edition, you had to order so many retailer incentive cover or whatever, was ours. And I didn't think anything of it. And this guy was just beyond the moon that he even found a copy of it because he couldn't find a copy of it. And then it freaked him out when I just signed it and gave it to him. Because he actually had, what was it? He had something else that I'd worked on. And I thought it was so crazy that he had that. And I signed it for him. I thought, well, you're obviously a fan if you've got that. Oh, I remember. He on his bag, he had a couple of Bushy Tails buttons on his messenger bag. And that was what kind of flipped me out. You know what I mean? That he'd followed my career that long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so he was like, I was like, how much for it? I said, take it, man. I signed it for him and he was just like, oh man, this is so, it's like freaking out. It was fun. I kind of miss those days sometimes.
Yeah, I can understand why. I can definitely understand why. So, hey, those days will come again.
We'll see. So that's all I have for Collector's Corner myself this week. Not to disappoint anybody, but I just honestly, it was just, there's a lot of speculation swirling around a lot of books, but I just don't feel comfortable talking about them because I just don't see where the obvious upside on some of them is at this particular point in time. The way Falcon and Winter Soldier ended, I talked about that last week. I don't see a lot of this stuff that people say is coming is necessarily going to be happening. So I just can't recommend people run out and buy a bunch of books based on speculation and hype that at the end of the day, I'm not even sure is even going to really happen right now. So, I'm not going to get too far into that. Next week, we're going to talk about some interesting stuff next week, because I want to start looking at trading cards. I want to start looking at specifically on the comics side, like, rookie cards, like, this card is being this person's rookie card, this card is being this other person's rookie card, and looking at, kind of what the values are for it, and maybe making some recommendations on that side. Because I feel like there's a lot of fun, interesting stuff happening on that. And then hopefully eventually here pretty soon, Topps will hopefully announce, their NFT versions, hopefully of the Marvel cards and stuff. So there's a lot of fun stuff to talk about coming up. But